Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking very frankly about the Chicago Bears. And I just really want to jump into it. Sorry, Rockford Ice Hogs. We'll get you next week. I just want to jump right into this. What the hell did we see yesterday?
We saw who the Bears are. Sean, you know what? This is what I'm going to tell you right now. Last night was not just a true reckoning for this season. It goes further than that. This game that we witnessed last night, that really just told us that this organization is no closer to a Super Bowl than they were a few years ago. And I'm talking before 2018. It is exactly where they've been for the past 2 decades now. Ever since the mid-90s, they are miles away from the Super Bowl. And you know what, Sean? I don't know about you, but going into the season, my expectations weren't overly high, but I said, I don't have any expectations, but I think there is room here to be at least in the mix. And I mean in the mix, not in the hunt, if you know what I mean. But the way this week unfolded, after a bye week, getting killed in Green Bay, saying you had a good practice. I mean, we're watching the 2014 movie all over again, it seems like. It's same thing, different year, different people, but nothing changes. It's like we just did a full circle, and that full circle was mainly just dodging more duty, having one good year, and then going back to duty again, and all of a sudden you were back at that same point where you were in 2014, where you were calling for everybody to be fired. And right now, any little credibility that we were trying to give to the current Bears regime, I think this game just killed what little, if there was any left.
I mean, here's the thing. You were playing a Green Bay Packer team that was coming off a really tough loss. Mm-hmm. Where you watched them absolutely dominate the first half and then get dominated in the second half. Mm-hmm. You had 2 weeks to prepare for this team. You had a game film where you saw a team that you played, how they did a second half adjustment, come back to win. You could process that information, use it to come up with a game plan. And you were not prepared to play. You had 2 weeks. You were not prepared to play offensively, defensively. You were not prepared. And honestly, I saw players quitting.
So did Tony Dungy. He pointed it out just very bluntly.
It is we've got players that are quitting. And that's the one thing, this one saving grace we were saying about Matt Nagy is players weren't quitting. Players are quitting. And I think that signals to everybody what time it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fate was almost sealed basically right then and there.
The fate should have been sealed, but I don't think it will be. I think we're going to see at least one more year of Ted Phillips, Ryan Pace, and Matt Nagy. At least one more whole year.
Look, I want to just talk about this right now because I know it's on all our minds. And could be just because you brought one of the names up. Before we get into the actual football personnel, listen, there is nobody in this city that would be happier than to see the McCaskies sell the team or part ways with Ted Phillips than me. Nobody. But that's just not going to happen. I honestly, Ted Phillips is never, ever going to leave this organization. I truly feel that way. He has been here since the late 80s. He's been president of CEO since 1999.
He's been with the team since 83.
Yeah.
83.
Yeah. 83. Yeah, he's more secure than anybody in a Reinsdorf organization. I mean, let's be real here. And look, I'm sure Ted Phillips means well. I don't want to assault his character. I mean, give him the credit I will give him is that he did do a good job updating the facilities. I mean, that's good. Good for him. I'm sure, if you sat down and talked to him, he'd be a nice guy. But look, when it's not working, it's not working. And I just truly feel like the ownership and Ted Phillips, you just have really a relic. The Chicago Bears are a relic. You are an entity that was once relevant, that was once a symbol of success, and it's no more. It's like you're digging up archaeological remains. That's what the Chicago Bears are. Something that was once relevant is now buried, is now old school. It now doesn't really serve a purpose to function in modern society. That's what the Bears are. And look, the ownership's not going to change. They're not going to sell the team. They're not going to get rid of Ted Phillips. It's just not going to happen.
Here's my thing: is honestly, I don't care if they get rid of Ted Phillips, but they should put a firewall. He should be business operations, which where he came from. He came from.
He's a businessman.
He's a businessman. Clearly they've done fine business. I mean, they're one of the most valuable franchises, and the facilities upgraded, and it's he's done fine as a businessman. Firewall him. Put a firewall in and separate the business side from football operations. Bring in somebody. So keep him the CEO. Make somebody else the president of football operations.
Yep.
That knows football. Somebody that's an emeritus.
The Theo Epstein
Yes.
structure.
Somebody that knows football that can come in here, and so you don't have to hire a consultant to figure out who's going to be your coach and your general manager. They know football, they know the league. You bring somebody like that in, they don't have to run the day-to-day. The general manager does the day-to-day football operations, or the head coach. They don't have to worry about the business side. They're the football side of things. And they look at the big picture of the football things. They're evaluating the general manager. Right now you have a bunch of, an old lady and a bunch of half-wits and a businessman, and they don't know anything about football, and they're trying to make decisions, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do. They're going to stick with Ted Phillips, who's like, well, we're making money. So, well, not this year because of COVID, but, in general, they're making money. They don't want to rock the boat too much. He's going to keep Ryan Pace, and Ryan Pace is going to keep Matt Nagy. And that's just how things are going to roll. And it's really sad. And honestly, when I look at this, my one saving grace of the position we're in is I took some comfort in initially saying, oh man, this is such a bad situation that we're in that everybody that should be fired has to be feeling kind of antsy in their seat right now. And then when I started to really dig down into it, I was like, no, I don't think they are. I mean, maybe Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace have to feel, but Ted Phillips, no. And
he's safer than like you in a fallout shelter that's surrounded by 10,000 feet of concrete. There's not even a speck of heat under his chair. Let's be real.
I think he is the longest tenured president that isn't also the owner or child of an owner in the league. I don't think anybody that doesn't have ownership of a team has been in that role as long as Ted Phillips has.
You want me to share a few stats with you real quick regarding that?
Sure.
Okay, so he's been with the organization obviously since the early 80s, but we're going to talk about since he took his current role, CEO and president, 1999. 21 years. That's 2 full decades. Okay?
I'm ready.
5. You know what that 5 represents?
Playoff games.
Mm-hmm. Playoff appearances.
Yeah, games. Or is it
2001, 2005, 2006, 2010, 2018.
Okay.
5. 3 playoff wins. 2 of them came in 1 year. That was 2006 when they made the Super Bowl. The other year was 2010 when they won the first round against the Seahawks. That's your playoff success right there. In 20 seasons, the last 20 years, you have made the playoffs a grand total of 5 times. The Chicago Cubs have done that since 2015. Since 2015, 5 playoff appearances for them, 5 for the Bears since 1999. You're one of the charter franchises, the founding fathers of the NFL. And so far, in the 20th century, 2 decades in, you have made the playoffs 5 times.
It's sad. It's sad. And you know what? You can say Ted Phillips is doing a good job on the business side because the value of this team is gone through the roof, and they sell out games.
Crunching numbers, yes.
But on the football side of things, he doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, and you can't have that. You can't have that. You have to have somebody in here that knows football. He doesn't. He doesn't know football. He knows business.
Right.
And that's fine. You can keep him in the business role of this, but you can't have him running the football operations. He's literally the only person on this in this franchise structure that Ryan Pace has to answer to. And so Ryan Pace essentially has full reign of the football operations, and this is the team he put together.
You know, I like the idea kind of a Cubs Theo Epstein type structure. If you bring in a football-minded president of football operations, and then you can hire a general manager under him, that means you would actually have a chain of hierarchy that actually knows football. Like you said, if they just kept Ted Phillips as just the business guy, and as much as the owners try to downplay the involvement of Ted Phillips, and we all know that's bullcrap. We all know that's bullcrap, because either decisions on general managers and what comes after them is either in the hands of Phillips or George McCaskey. Neither should be making those decisions. Neither of them. I don't want the old lady making decisions. I don't want George McCaskey making those decisions. I don't want Ted Phillips to make the decisions. Ted Phillips can run the business. George McCaskey can be head of the board. Virginia McCaskey can wear her fur coats inside the press box and stare down at the field and watch the games, but none should be making any football personnel decisions whatsoever. I don't care if it's the general manager. I don't care if it's the head coach. I don't care if it's the water boy. It doesn't matter. They should be completely out of that.
I mean, since 99, when Ted Phillips became the president and CEO of the Chicago Bears, and how many years has that been?
Well, 21,
okay.
Almost 22.
So he inherited a general manager Mark Hatley. He fired him and hired Jerry Angelo. You know how many years he gave Jerry Angelo?
That had to be a good, 12, 13 years?
So he hired Jerry Angelo. Jerry Angelo got a decade.
Yeah. Okay. So when exactly did he hire Angelo? That was when I was
2001.
2000. Okay. Yeah, that is a decade. Because didn't Phil Emery come in 2012?
2012.
Yeah, okay, there you go. 10 years.
And he had Phil Emery had 2012 to 2014. Ryan Pace now is 2015 to 2020. 5 seasons.
And look at it this way too, Sean. Let's go back exactly 10 years from now to the 2010 season, the last time we actually won a playoff game. So coach was Lovie Smith, GM was Angelo. Then Angelo got fired. We brought in Phil Emery, and then you had Lovie for a few more seasons. Well, really one more season under Angelo. Then Lovie was gone. Still under Emery. Then you brought in Mark Trestman. Then both Mark Trestman and Emery were canned. Then you bring in Ryan Pace. He brings in John Fox. Then John Fox is gone. Ryan Pace still here. He hires Matt Nagy. And, I know you're skeptical about Pace and Nagy being fired. Me personally, I think Pace is gone after this year. But then again, it could depend on how the season ends. Because look, this team is not good. They're sub 500 now. But they're going to be adding in another wild card. Well, it's not official, but I have a feeling they are going to be adding that 8th playoff team. So if they add that, the Bears might accidentally fall into a playoff spot, or maybe close enough to one where they're going to say, oh, well, they were still close to the playoffs. So, it's my opinion that he should be gone. Will he be gone is kind of a different story. If they don't make the playoffs, I think he's gone. If they just lose out, I think he's gone. But if they get close or squeak in as like an 8th seed, if they implement that, then I might be a little more skeptical. But back to my original point, going back just 10 years, Lovie, Trestman, Fox, Nagy. That's 4 coaches, 4 head coaches in 10 years. And how many combined playoff wins? 1. How many combined playoff appearances? 2.
Yeah. It's embarrassing. It's honestly embarrassing.
It is. And also, let's also be real here. Our rivals they absolutely own us. They've pretty much owned us my entire life.
I mean, I lived in a time when the Bears owned the Packers. So
That was a long time ago.
I've seen it. I have seen it. So, you're right. It was a very long time ago. I have seen it, but it has been a real long time, and I forget what it's like. I forget what it's like to own the Packers. It's
going back to 2009. We have 4 wins against them.
They just chalk, like, their fans, when they look at the schedule, go, Bears, that's 2 wins. They look at us more like worse than we do to the Lions.
Pretty much.
It's embarrassing. And I just want to remind you, what's our current record right now?
5-6.
Just in October, we were 5-1. We were 5-1, and we talked about it on the show. It was a slippery slope with that 3-game stretch. And I was like, the Bears have to take one of those. They have to, because it's a slippery slope, and they lost all 3 of those games, and it's just been straight garbage. And I have a feeling Matt Nagy may not survive this, into next season. But I think Ted Phillips and Ryan Pace stick it out.
I don't know. I think it's going to depend on how the season ends. And I mean, just looking forward to it. So we have the Lions. Then we have the Texans, I think. No, we have the Vikings on the road, and then we have the Texans, and then we have the Jaguars, and then we have Green Bay at home. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I know those are the games. I don't know if that's the right order.
It's Lions,
necessarily.
Texans, Vikings, Jaguars, Packers.
Okay. So I just had the two switched. I mean, the Lions just fired everybody, so we don't really know what their new coach is going to bring.
I don't even know who's the interim coach.
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. And then the Texans. You're going to play the Texans, who are playing a hell lot better right now under their interim head coach. They're playing better. And, the Vikings just beat you, and the Vikings just had a big comeback win. The Vikings are – I'm not going to say they're a playoff team, but I think they're trending in the right direction. And that's on the road. And, right now the Jaguars and the Lions are the only two games where you say, you know what, those are like the winnable games right now. Then the Packers, who knows? They might have everything clinched, so they might not even have their starters in, so who knows? But all I'm trying to say is I think that, personally, I see a 7-9 finish right now. That's at best. That's where I see them finishing.
And the thing is, I just want to ask you a question. What has Matt Nagy done to deserve to come back next year?
I mean, the only thing I can honestly say is, outside this game kind of put a damage on that, is at least he always had the team playing hard, whether it was good or bad. And it seems like the morale is much, much better than years past under other coaches. But, this game that we just saw in Green Bay did probably put a hurt on that. And I think the other thing too is, and I'm not saying this is necessarily how I see it, but it'd be how the Bears might see it. If you look right now, just right now at his overall record, you still see a winning record. Again, I'm not saying that's how I would look at it. I'm just saying that's how they might look at it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is Matt Nagy, I don't think has done enough to deserve to be here in the long run. I don't. He looks better at times because of what we had right before him in like John Fox and Mark Trestman.
Let me just tell you something. Let me go through a few stats here. I'm just going to go offensive stats because Matt Nagy was supposed to be the offensive guru.
Mm-hmm.
What year did Matt Nagy take over for this team?
2018.
In 2018, the yards per game, the Bears were 21st in the league. 343.9 yards per game. They were 21st in passing yards, 222.8 yards per game. And they were 11th in rushing, 121.1 yards per game. And they were 9th in scoring, 26.3 points a game. The next year, 2019, year 2 of the system, they were 29th in yards per game. 29th out of 32 teams. Under 300 yards a game. They were 25th in passing. They were 27th in rushing. 91.1 yards per game rushing. 27th in the league. They were 29th in scoring. 17.5 points a game. This year, his third year, like, okay, some things happened last year. There's some injuries, blah, blah, blah. And, You got to pick your quarterback. You got to have like year 3 of your system. Yards per game, the Bears are 31st out of 32 teams. Only the Jets, who are a laughingstock of the league, are worse.
Yikes.
You are 23rd in passing yards. You are dead last in the NFL in rushing. 82.2 yards per game. Dead last in the NFL. And you're 29th in scoring again. Now that I've gotten to those numbers, let me read you John Fox's numbers from the year he got fired. They were 30th in yards per game, which is one spot better than the Bears are this year so far. They're 32nd in passing yards per game, so they were last.
Shocker.
But they were 16th in rushing, 111.8 yards per game, and they were 29th in scoring, just like they are right now. Those, I mean, you flip-flop rushing, let's say flip-flop rushing and passing, so you got 31st versus 30th in yards per game, dead last in breakdown, middle of the road, lower middle of the road in the other one, and 29th in points per game. And John Fox got fired.
Oy.
Matt Nagy has yet to win a game after a bye week.
Yeah, the bye week games have all been awful. Even 2018, that was against the Giants when they crapped the bed, and then last year was that what was a bye game last year? I can't remember. Oh, was it that loss in London?
Yeah, no, the Raiders. No, because no, don't they do the bye after London?
Was it? Then who was after that?
Let's see. 2019 Bears.
I don't think it was the Charger game.
Let's see. Dolphins. That was 2018. Sorry.
I was going to say.
Why is this showing up as 20? I typed in 2019. Why are you bringing me 2018?
I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Saints.
Oh, yeah, we did that game on Hot Mic, and they got killed.
Because it was the Raiders, then they had their bye week, and then the Saints.
Yeah.
And then after the Saints, they lost to the Chargers and the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, that Chargers game, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so you have just disintegrating offensive statistics to the point where now they're just indistinguishable from the guy that got fired that you replaced. You can't win when you're given more time to prepare. And then I think like one of the most damning ones is the inability to in-game adjust. Now, when do you make in-game adjustments? I mean, just like the biggest opportunity you have to make in-game adjustment would be halftime, right?
You would think.
If you look at third quarter scoring this year.
Oh, boy. I know this is going to be bad.
The Bears are dead last. Dead last by a lot.
How many total points do they have in the third quarter?
I believe 14. So, but
wow.
But it's worse than it is when you put it as 14. You're like, oh, 14. But here, let me put this into perspective here. The Bears are dead last at 1.3 points per game in the third quarter. Second to last is the Dolphins, who are double that, almost.
And isn't one of those touchdowns just a Cordero Patterson special teams touchdown?
Yes.
Oh my sweet lord.
So they are dead last by a lot. Like 31st has twice as many points per game in the third quarter. And there are 6 teams that have a touchdown or more average in the third quarter. And there's only 3 teams that have less than 3 points. And the Bears are one of them. And if you do it as home and road splits, the Bears are doing a little better at home. I guess they should be the same because but they're.
I was gonna.
I think it just breaks down in because of the number of games. So it's 1.4 points per game at home, and which is funny because you look at Seattle, who's number 1 in scoring in the third quarter at home, and they're at almost 13 points just in the third quarter, which is almost as many points as the Bears are scoring in a game. And then when you go on the road, they are at 1.2 points per game in the third quarter versus Tampa Bay is number 1 at 7 points. So they are clearly not making adjustments in the second half to come back from games. And where they have come back is in garbage time where other teams have choked. I mean, you have two of your 5 wins are against 2 teams that choked and handed you a victory.
Yeah. How many games can we actually say the Bears played pretty well? The only one I can really think of is against the Panthers. And even so, that game had a lot of annoying mistakes in it. Obviously, you buckled down and you were able to beat Tom Brady and the Bucs, but you sucked most of that first half. And yeah, I mean, the Lions and the Falcons were just total choke jobs, epic total choke jobs. You haven't had one convincing win all year. I mean, even last year, if you look at last year, as annoying and bad as it was, you at least had a few nice wins. When you and I did the hot mic game against the Vikings at home, when they needed Chase Daniel to come in, that was a convincing, easy win. When they beat up on the Cowboys, that was a nice, easy, convincing win. You haven't had any of that this year. And look, comebacks can look epic. Let's not get me wrong here. Comebacks can look epic, but those comebacks required some big-time choke jobs from the other 2 teams. There's a difference between just coming back and there's nothing the other team can do and, having an interception go your way and a game-winning touchdown just being flat-out dropped.
It's just really frustrating. And I'm ready. I don't cheer for people losing their jobs. That's not what my goal is. But I do expect that people should, they're given this job, that they should be judged on their performance. And if your performance isn't up to par, the performance expectation of this job is very high.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're paid a lot of money, because it's high expectations, and there's not a lot of longevity in this job because it's really hard to last a long time being good. And Matt Nagy, there was a lot of luck in 2018. A lot of your scoring was from an opportunistic defense. You had one of the best defenses in years that was on your team, and they gave you good field position. They got a lot of turnovers. You got a lot more opportunities on the other side of the 50-yard line, and you had a much better running game, and you worked with the old recipe: run the ball and play good defense. And that's what happened. And then you tried to change up things to make it a much more pass-friendly offense, and everything just went whistling down the toilet. So it's the expectations are not being met at any level of what your expectations are. So I just don't understand how we can expect Matt Nagy to maintain his job. And then when you look at Ryan Pace, is a lot of people will be, oh, you should be fired because he drafted Mitch Trubisky over Mahomes and Watson. That just sucked because that's a everybody and their mother was making that same decision. We went through it before, is how many draft experts and media outlets also had Trubisky as the number one quarterback, is where he gets killed, where he rightfully should get killed. I'm not going to, it sucks that we're not in the position to have Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. Like, it sucks. But where I beat up Ryan Pace is the fact that he traded up.
Yeah, I mean, that is obviously one of the big parts of it. And, I mean, even if you just put the whole Trubisky quarterback thing aside, you had your hits, but you've had a lot of misses, too. I mean, the Mac trade, I'll always defend. You brought in Akeem Hicks a few years back. You were able to get some nice draft picks. Eddie Goldman was a good find. Jordan Howard for his first few years was a good find.
That was that him?
That was him, yeah.
Okay.
I think that was one of his first picks. But Floyd was a bust. Trubisky is obviously a bust. You've signed some guys to free agency. I mean, Robert Quinn. He's making a lot of money. Where the heck has he been? I forget he's even on the team at times.
Yeah, here Ryan Pace's 10 best draft picks. Adrian Amos was a good one. Roquan Smith, Jordan Howard, Nick Kwiatkowski, Bilal Nichols, James Daniels, Eddie Jackson. Those were all really good picks. Tariq Cohen.
That was an okay pick.
Cody Whitehair, Eddie Goldman. Those were all good picks. So he's had some good success in the middle rounds.
Yes.
Just you've had some bad ones though.
Yep.
And it's the first round busts that kill you. It's the trade up for Mitch Trubisky that kills you. It's the whiffs and the free agent signings that kill you.
Trading Nick Foles ended up being a bust, and it was a move I kind of defended, but you know what? It really did not work out.
No, it didn't, but the other options I don't think were very good either.
No, I mean, it was a tough situation to be in.
People will be like, well, they should have got Cam Newton. They could have had Cam Newton. You know what? Cam Newton's not doing so hot either.
No, and here's the other thing, too, I guess. And, again, I'm not necessarily saying that Mitch Trubisky was going to figure things out this year, but they were still trying to ride as much as they could with Mitch Trubisky. If they just flat out didn't have a quarterback, I think you might have been more likely to go a Cam Newton route. But since that wasn't necessarily the case, even though it was still a lot to trade for with Nick Foles, but you could at least say we're bringing in Nick Foles to be a backup and he could come in when he needs to. Whereas if you were signing Cam Newton, then you were committing to Cam Newton. You weren't going to sign him and be like, all right, now you're going on the bench. Mitch Trubisky's a starter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing with Mitch Trubisky is you had playing under John Fox, which was just a regressive system. And you're like, okay, maybe we could have a turnaround like they did with the Rams when you brought in an offense, like a really good offensive mind to make Jared Goff look better. And it still took a little time, and he's starting to look a lot better right now. And you're like, okay, well, he got better in 2018, but then 2019 was really bad. And you're like, oh. And so you're left in limbo. You're like, well, we drafted this guy really high. We've gotten mixed results. we've had some games that he looks really good, and then a lot of games where he looks really bad. Like, what do we have in him? You have to make a decision, because if you commit to this guy for big money and you get this type of results, everyone's going to lose their jobs. But if you let this guy walk and he figures it out somewhere else and they get a steal, then you look like an idiot. So you really need to make a well-informed decision. And you're right. I think you needed this season to kind of establish that. And any hope that you had of Mitch being the guy at some point was just bitch slapped yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, my hope was pretty much gone by that point, but yeah, and I'm going to say it again, there's no glory in garbage time.
Nope.
There's just not.
And here's the thing. Matt Nagy, before the game, was like, Mitch Trubisky had the best week of practice he's had in 2.5 years under me.
Mark Trestman-esque quote right there. Ugh.
That is what he said. And Mitch Trubisky came in there and threw 2 terrible interceptions on balls that were poorly thrown into good coverage.
I swear, man. I mean, we saw that, and you just gotta shrug your shoulder at that and be like, well, this is where we're at. But I also want to say this. I'm pretty sure Matt Nagy might be a were-Trestman. Have you heard of those creatures?
No.
So a were-Trestman comes out when the scoreboard is, very lopsided. Matt Nagy, this is just, his example of being a were-Trestman. He will look at the scoreboard, his pupils will become dilated, and all of a sudden he'll start groaning and clenching everything. And then suddenly he's going to start getting slightly longer hair, slightly less defined chin. Glasses are going to grow. A full ball cap with a Bears logo on it is going to just appear on him. And he's going to have that old Trestman jacket all of a sudden. And then he's going to be talking about good practices and how his boys love football. That is a were-Trestman. And I'm pretty sure Matt Nagy is a were-Trestman.
Well, there we go. And I mean, the guy gave up play calling duties, and things have looked a little bit better.
And by a little bit better, we mean like still awful, but not quite as awful, but still really awful.
I'm just looking at some bad Bears signings under Ryan Pace. Trey Burton.
Bad.
Mark,
who of course made an epic catch, even though they lost against the, in the Colts game.
Marcus Wheaton.
I forgot all about him.
I did too. Deion Sims.
Oh, is that the tight end that couldn't catch?
Uh-huh. Cody Parkey.
Don't remind us.
Michael Glennon. Who might come in here and beat us in a couple weeks.
Who? I do not recognize that name. It does not compute. Who's Mike Glennon?
Some guy with a stork neck.
Oh my God.
This is just a disaster franchise. And I just don't feel confident in the team that we have in place to fix this. And I don't know. I mean, if you're going to make the decision to fire somebody, why not do it now? See, then you get an idea of who wants to play. Because if guys are quitting, you don't want them. So figure out who those guys are going to play hard. And pull up what the Lions did is because you got Champ Kelly, who's a guy that I've heard his name be tossed around for future GM positions. And, let that guy see what it's like for him to sit in the big chair for this, the last third of the season. Give Chuck Pagano the reins. Let Bill Lazor run the offense. And just go from there. I mean, you're not. I mean, this team is clearly not going to fire Ted Phillips, but we were absolutely embarrassed yesterday by the Green Bay Packers. Embarrassed.
There was a small part of me thinking, what if I wake up this morning and I see the ESPN notification that Ryan Pace and or Matt Nagy, has been relieved of their duties. I didn't think it was necessarily going to happen, but there was a small part of me that wondered that Virginia was going to tell her son to tell the Bears that they're pissed off and that he was going to do something drastic, like just march down there and, do something. But obviously it didn't happen. I mean, to your point, if they were to make those drastic changes right now, you could at least say, he might not have been a great head coach, but at least the rest of the way you could give Chuck Pagano the head coaching gig. At least he's got experience.
It is and talking about this game, the Packers scored at will.
Yeah.
The only reason the score wasn't worse is because they took their foot off the gas at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Their punter punted one time yesterday. Your defense couldn't stop the run. Jones averaged over 5 yards a carry. Aaron Rodgers had a 132.3 quarterback rating. You got beat bad.
This is the worst. I mean, we pretty much lost every single game to them except like 2 of the past 5+ years. But in terms of just lopsidedness, this is probably the worst loss to them since 2014. You remember that. Wasn't that 6 touchdowns in the first half?
It's just unreal. The Bears, David Montgomery got 100 yards. That's a nice thing to see. He ran okay, but you just couldn't get anything going. Guys were dropping balls. And when you saw Ryan Nall come in the game, you just knew it was garbage time. He's the king of garbage time coming in. And I don't know if you saw, but Big Dave actually got Ryan Nall on Cameo to do a thing for them.
I did hear about that, yes.
I don't know what to say about this game. Poor on defense, poor tackling, inability to stop the run, getting beat off the line of scrimmage, getting no pressure on Aaron Rodgers, blown coverages left and right. You weren't able to adjust. They came in with a game plan where they were going to use speed to beat your inside linebackers, namely Danny Trevathan, and they did that. And they picked up a lot of yards doing it. They executed their offense seamlessly without any issues. And they scored 4 touchdowns in the first half. On the offensive side, the Bears couldn't sustain drives. They got into the red zone in the first quarter, and you had your first draft pick of this last draft drop a ball and almost fumbled it, so you got no points, but he couldn't hang on to it and just fall into the end zone. It's like Murphy's Law. You have the other team, everything just happens to go right. And with this team, it's like everything could go wrong.
That pretty much describes that entire game, yeah.
You signed Robert Quinn to a 5-year, $70 million deal. He's got 1 sack and 13 tackles.
He's got that many tackles. I'm surprised. Yeesh.
Anthony Miller is tweeting that it's embarrassing, but he's the one that should be. He's embarrassing. He was supposed to come in and be that legit number 2 guy, come out and take the top off the ball and really stretch this. And he has dropped a lot of balls, and he has lost playing time to everybody, and he's embarrassing. I just don't know what else to sum this up. Is you pay a tight end a lot of money, and he's not a weapon at all in short yardage or red zone offense. Just not there. Mitch Trubisky looked terrible. Terrible decision making. He can't throw a deep ball to save his life. We did see some mobility, which was nice, because the way the offensive line that was so porous, if Nick Foles was in there, it would have been worse. We would have just seen a train wreck because he would have gotten beat up. At least Mitch moved the pocket a little bit, but Mitch is no good. You look at the standings and theoretically you're right on the cusp of making the playoffs, but I don't see how you do it. I just don't.
It'll be complete accident if it happens. They'll fall into it if it happens.
I mean, the way that they're playing and giving up, I do even see them beating the Lions.
I mean, if they lose, I wouldn't be overly surprised. I'll say that. I mean, the thing is, Matt Stafford could still sling a bit, and if he's able to get his targets open downfield, then it could be a very long day for you. Let's also not forget that since they have a new coach, they could be implementing a new scheme, and maybe they'll say, maybe we shouldn't align our defense the way we did against Mitch Trubisky like Matt Patricia did, because it never seemed to work. Their interim coach might be wise enough to say, maybe we shouldn't do it that way.
I mean, you watch that game, and the Lions had control of that game for most of the game.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, what makes us very confident that they're going to win is the Bears going into the fourth quarter were down 23-6.
Mm-hmm.
23-6. The Bears didn't have a touchdown until the fourth quarter. And you look at that game, and Matt Stafford threw for 300 yards. Adrian Peterson.
If you're looking to win the game the same fashion again, forget about it. It's not going to happen.
Adrian Peterson rushed for over 6.5 yards a carry.
Yeah. He had a pretty solid Thanksgiving, so he might be riding high a little bit.
So I'm not that confident. And that was they were missing their top wide receivers at that point.
Yeah, that's also true.
So I'm not that confident. What if we lose to the Lions?
I wouldn't be that shocked.
I mean, I'm putting down on paper they get one more win this season.
Could be. I mean, I think Jacksonville is really the one where you could say they should win that game. And we really should be saying the Lions, but I think there's definitely a chance they can lose that game. I don't see them beating Minnesota. And right now, I think Deshaun Watson is going to just light them up, and that's not going to be fun to listen about. And again, with the Green Bay Packers, Week 17, it's probably going to be a loss. We'll see if they have everything clinched by then and they rest their starters, but right now I'm not going to count it as a win, that's for sure. If they only got one win the rest of the way, I'm not going to act surprised. Not at all. I think they get 1, 2, maybe. I don't even know if they get 3, but 1 or 2 is where I'm thinking.
And here's the crazy part is, if perchance the Packers decide to, quote, rest their starters, you know what's going to happen, right? That first round draft pick, our quarterback that they have, Jordan Love, is going to come in and light the Bears up.
Yeah.
And then we're going to realize that it's going to be 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back to back without a break, seamless transition, and that we're stuck.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I just don't know where we go from here. This is a really, really tough league to win in without a quarterback.
It's almost impossible at this point.
And the Cleveland Browns are doing it. They're doing it with a really good defense and a really, really good running game. And they've got a mediocre quarterback play.
Yeah, let's see if that can last in the playoffs.
I don't think it will. I don't think they have a realistic chance of winning in the playoffs.
I mean, look at when they played the Steelers kicked their ass. I don't want to downplay what the Browns are doing, but I don't know. I don't see them going far in the playoffs.
I don't either. I'm just saying is that they're one of the teams that's having some success there. And it's not great success. They're eking out a lot of wins. I mean, they got smoked against the Ravens. They eked one out against the Bengals. They beat up the Washington team pretty good. They beat up the Cowboys pretty good. They beat the Colts pretty good. It was actually a good win.
That was a good win, yes.
They got smoked by the Steelers. They eked out another one against the Bengals. They lost to the Raiders. They eked one out against the Texans, eked one out against the Browns, eked one out against the Chargers. We'll see what they do in these next 2 games against the Titans and the Ravens. Then they've got the Giants and the Jets, and then the Steelers again. So, but they've, at least that's the formula that has worked historically. Good defense, run the ball. But for the most part, this is a really tough league to win in without an elite quarterback, or at least an above average, like a far above average quarterback. And the Bears just don't have that. And I don't know how they get one at this point.
I mean, the rest of the year, forget it. Next year, where you're drafting, I don't think you're going to get one. Next year, you might have to do just a 1-year solution.
But who's that 1-year solution?
I don't know.
I mean, Drew Brees might be done.
Yeah.
Cam Newton's probably going to go back to the Patriots because they're not in a position to have another quarterback.
You sign Andy Dalton? Ugh.
Yeah, you're not signing Andy Dalton.
No.
I mean, I guess you could take a flyer on what's his face. That's the backup at Taysom Hill's backup.
Crab Legs.
Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
The guy who could throw 50 touchdowns and 50 interceptions.
Yeah. Why am I drawing a
Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston.
I wanted to see how long it took you to figure.
Oh my
that out.
God! I'm picturing his face, and I'm like Florida State, and I'm going through his numbers. I mean, do you take a flyer on him?
If you can get him on a 1-year deal, I'd rather have him over most other people that would likely be available. I mean, at least he can throw downfield. Whether it's picked off or complete, at least he can throw.
because he's going to be a free agent.
Right.
And he signed a $1 million contract and didn't play in a single game, and they put in Taysom Hill ahead of him. So, but I mean, the guy is an enigma. He's an absolute enigma. You look at his stats, and let's see. He's a career 61% completions. Last year he threw for over 5,100 yards, but he had 30 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you're going to see a lot of interceptions, but he's got to be the best option you have. I mean, he's clearly better than Nick Foles, and you know, I think he's your stopgap. I can't, like, he fits.
What are the other options even? I mean,
trading for Aaron Rodgers so they can start the Jordan Love era.
that's not happening.
That's not happening.
Joe Flacco? No.
Alex Smith?
Would he come here, though?
I don't think so.
Here's the thing. I would love an Alex Smith on my team. I would. But, I don't know if he'd come here for a stopgap. Well, he might at this point in his career, but I just don't think he'd come here. Case Keenum?
Man, I'm just looking at the list here.
Teddy Bridgewater, I know, signed a multi-year deal.
Yeah. I mean, Eli Manning's available.
Oh, bring him out of retirement. Have him just, like, come out with, like, a cane and Walker.
I mean...
What's Brian Greasy up to these days?
Dak Prescott is going to be a free agent.
Well, that's not happening.
But that's not happening. Isn't Phillip Rivers a free agent? But that's not happening.
He will be,
either.
yes. But he's 40.
Yeah. Jacoby Brissett is going to be a free agent. But he hasn't been a good option. Trubisky. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Tyrod Taylor.
No.
A.J. McCarron. Andy Dalton. Nathan Peterman. RG3. Nate Sudfeld. Matt Barkley. Cam Newton. Joe Flacco. Mike Glennon. Blaine Gabbert. Jameis Winston. Brian Hoyer. Josh McCown. Sean Mannion. Trevor Siemian. C.J. Beathard. Nick Mullins. Kyle Allen. David Blau. That's your options. One of those guys is going to be your quarterback next year.
I feel like Jameis Winston is like the only like option that is somewhat realistic and can maybe somewhat kind of do a little tiny bit for you.
You saying Fitzmagic is not an option?
Well, I guess he could be, but the thing that's so, he is the weirdest quarterback ever because he goes from balling out one game to just completely shitting the bed the next one. But, you know, I will say this. If you were to bring in a Fitzmagic, you can be like, you know what? The guy can at least fire up your team and maybe give you some excitement one week. So, I mean, again, we are looking at stopgaps here. We are not looking for legitimate solutions. We at least want the stopgap to be slightly, somewhat microscopically capable of doing something.
How many times do you find your solution quarterback in free agency?
Never.
Drew Brees is the only one I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, most of it's just looking for backups or stopgaps. I mean, people build their quarterbacks through the draft and then they extend them.
Yeah, that's pretty much. And, Dak Prescott could be if the Cowboys let him go, but I don't think they will. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that they would.
And why the fuck would he sign here?
Lord only knows. And he's going to cost $1 bajillion.
I was going to say, he's going to cost a fortune.
I mean, if he hits the free agent market, I mean, you're probably looking at $35-40 million a year.
Yeah, they don't have that money.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is like 39-40 years old. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, looking at this list.
Again, Jameis Winston seems like the best option out of that.
Alex Smith might be under contract still. Alex Smith contract. According to Spot Track, he. Come on. He is under contract for 2 more years.
No, there you go.
So he's not an unrestricted free agent until 2023. So you would have to trade for him and take on his $20 million. I'm sorry, next year it'll be $18.75 million contract, which you're probably not going to have to give much up, and somebody'd have to probably eat it. But it's going to be basically a trade, kind of like you did with Nick Foles. You have to give something up and still have to pay some money. So yeah, Alex Smith is out. Really, Jameis Winston is the most realistic option in that list. Oof.
Yeah, I know. Yippee.
Even if you draft somebody, I mean, we're at the point where we're getting to the point where we might actually have a decent pick because we keep losing all these games.
Not good enough though to get a franchise-changing one.
So now we're at the point where we are the 13th pick.
Can we also talk about the fact that Ryan Pace, how many quarterbacks has he drafted? 1? Is that literally is Trubisky the only quarterback he's actually drafted?
Yes, literally the only one.
And isn't that the guy who said, we believe that we should be drafting quarterbacks often? Didn't he say that?
He praised a team that drafted a quarterback every year, or the philosophy that you draft a quarterback every year.
And yet?
And here's the thing. Drafting a quarterback every year, I see what they're talking about is you get your guy and then you churn through younger guys to see who's got potential and who doesn't. That way you're grooming somebody. Like, I get it, but the way the draft goes now and how important it is to hit on these guys, it's really hard to be like, we're going to draft a guy every year, because then that's a position. Like, even if you hit on him, like, he's not playing. He's your backup. You gotta get a guy in there that can play. So, you got a 5th rounder in here. Do you spend it on an Eddie Jackson, or do you spend it on a flyer on a quarterback that's probably 90% going to suck? It's hard to justify. You really have to take an educated flyer and maybe every 2 to 3 years draft one. But he drafted 1 in 5 years.
Well, yeah, that's my point. Exactly. I'm not saying he has to draft one every single year, but you've drafted 1.
Yeah, and it was not his first draft. Like, you should have been in on drafting somebody right off the bat. But I mean, that's kind of the way life works, I guess. But you look at it, Jets Jets are probably going to go quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Trevor
Um,
Lawrence.
Jacksonville's probably going quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals are not going to go quarterback.
No, even though their future just got hurt
Yeah,
badly.
is Dallas probably not going quarterback unless they throw us all for a loop and they go quarterback and let Dak walk. Use that money to shore up the other positions.
I mean, I can't say I don't see that happening. I think it's unlikely, but maybe.
Chargers not going quarterback. Carolina probably not going quarterback. Philadelphia probably not going quarterback.
You think? I don't think Wentz is very good.
No, I don't either. But I don't know. You can't trade him.
No, but yeah, I mean, you could always draft someone, ride him on the bench for a while.
Maybe. Washington, maybe. I mean, if you got 5 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. I don't see Detroit drafting a quarterback. Don't see Atlanta drafting one.
Detroit, Matt Stafford's not going to be there forever. And what if they decide to trade him? If they go full rebuild here,
That's a possibility. Denver could want a quarterback.
I think Denver. Yeah, I don't think what's his nuts is.
I mean, the backup wide receiver is not going to cut it. Did you look at the stat line?
I did not.
I mean, you
Was
heard
it
about the
his
situation,
status?
right?
Oh, I know the situation.
I mean,
I just didn't read the stat line.
He finished 1 for 9 for 13 yards, 2 interceptions, and a 0 quarterback rating.
Isn't that basically what the Bears did in the second half against the Vikings?
Pretty much.
Well, there you go.
And that was really just the league making an example of the Broncos.
Yeah, that's a rough situation to be in.
I mean, if that would have been another team that it was just like, oh crap, something bad happened, not we were circumventing the rules about COVID, they would have postponed that game and they would have let the quarterback coach play quarterback. They would have done something, but nope. They said, nope, we're just handing you a loss.
Pretty much.
Vikings probably not drafting a quarterback. Then it's the Bears. But when we get back down to it, man, the Bears could be right around 10th pick, where they're at a spot where they really realistically could go quarterback. It just depends on who in front of them. You know, it's hard. If you get a run on quarterbacks, the thing about that is that means some really good football players are dropping.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, do I take a flyer on a guy that I probably have a second round grade on, taking him around the 10th pick? Or do I take this guy who should have been like a 3rd or 4th pick at 10th because everybody else has been picking quarterbacks? And it's a tough position because, man, you need a quarterback. You can't win this league without a quarterback.
That's the thing. It's the most important position in the league, and everyone's going to be wanting to replace if they have any sort of doubt.
You know, and you're going to have, and the thing is, if you wait until the second round, Pittsburgh could very well take a quarterback.
Yeah, sure.
New Orleans
and
could.
Roethlisberger's ancient.
New Orleans very well could take a quarterback. You know, the Chiefs and the Packers not taking quarterbacks. You can rule those out. Buffalo probably not taking a quarterback. Tennessee probably not taking a quarterback. Cleveland, where they're picking, probably not taking a quarterback. I think they're 2 in the middle. Colts could take a quarterback. Dolphins won't. Tampa won't because they're in win now, not groom somebody. Arizona won't. Giants probably won't. Baltimore won't. Vegas probably won't. San Francisco won't. New England, at where they're picking, probably won't. Man, it's tough. Oof, it is tough. And if Trevor Lawrence doesn't come out, I mean,
I think he'll come out.
If you're
I
Trevor
think he'll come
Lawrence, but if you're Trevor Lawrence, are you really trying to go to play for the Jets? Like, they're just a hot mess team.
Yeah, but you can get paid.
You'll get paid next year.
What if there's a catastrophic injury? What if COVID-19 worsens and college football's down the toilet again?
You'll still be the number one pick. But, you know, if you do that, like if I was Trevor Lawrence and I did that, my luck would be that the Jets would be just as bad the next year and still have the number one pick. And then you missed out on getting paid.
That or you tear your ACL when you're in college.
I mean, that's always a realistic, but man, like, you know, Joe Burrow went to a bad Bengals team, but they can at least run the ball. They've got, you know, well, before he was hurt, Joe Mixon's a pretty good running back. Like, they're not, I mean, they're a bad team, but they're not that far removed from being a decent team. And people were like, oh man, you know, nope, Joe Burrow doesn't want to go there. And he's going to turn that team around really quickly. But the Jets are just a badly run, just an abysmal organization. And I feel bad for that kid that plays quarterback for them because who knows what he is.
Yeah.
And he could be decent, and just that team is just a terrible team, and he hadn't have a real chance. You know, somebody's going to take a flyer on him to see what he is. Sam Darnold, you know, I don't know if he's good or if he's bad or if that he just needs to be on a real team. I just don't know. But leave it to watch Sam Darnold go to the Patriots.
Yeah. At this point, that wouldn't even surprise me, to be honest.
I just don't know what to do with this Bears organization. They've dug themselves a deep hole by being like the laughingstock of the league as far as getting a quarterback.
I mean, you are around forever, and you've never been able to get that position right. It's amazing. Even the Lions have gotten that position right. I mean, say what you will about Matt Stafford. I think he's a pretty solid quarterback. Yeah. He's not great, but I think he's good enough. You put a good team around him, he can do good things.
I mean, you just look at the list of Bears quarterbacks, and it's just absolutely, like, I don't even know what the proper word is to describe it. It is terrible. And like, I'm going to list the starting quarterbacks since I've been alive. Let me just go to the ones since you've been alive. What year were you born in?
94.
Let's just go from 94. Bears starting quarterbacks: Steve Walsh, Eric Kramer, Dave Craig, Rick Meyer, Steve Stenstrom, Moses Moreno, Shane Matthews, Cade McNown, Jim Miller, Chris Chandler, Henry Burris, Cordell Stewart, Rex Grossman, Craig Krenzel, Chad Hutchinson, Jonathan Quinn, Kyle Orton, Brian Greasy, Jay Cutler, Todd Collins, Caleb Haney, Josh McCown, Jason Campbell, Jimmy Clausen, Matt Barkley, Brian Hoyer, Mike Glennon, Mitchell Trubisky, Chase Daniel, Nick Foles. Now, if you want to go from when I was alive to when you were alive, Bob Avellini, Mike Phipps, Vince Evans, Jim McMahon,
Who we love.
Steve Fuller, Rusty Lish, Greg Landry, Mike Tomczak, Doug Flutie, Mike Hennessy, Steve Bradley, Peter Tom Willis, Will Fuhrer. Did I say Jim Harbaugh? Yeah. You didn't live through the Peter Tom Willis era.
Peter Tom Willis.
Peter Tom Willis.
Peter Tom Willis.
Yeah, he was the pride of Florida State. When he left the Bears, I think he took a few years off and then went to the Tampa Bay Storm, the Arena Football League.
Can I just say, I've always wanted to go to an Arena Football League game. I've always wanted to, and I always meant to go to a Rush game when I was a kid when they played at the Allstate Arena, but it never happened, and then they folded. Actually, one of my friends has the Arena Football League video game.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is the Arena Football League still in business?
I honestly don't know.
I just don't know what to do with the Bears, man. I don't. Whatever it is, I just don't trust the current brain trust that's in place to fix it or rebuild it. That's the only thing I'm certain of.
At this point, I just want to bulldoze and start from scratch. I mean, I know you have enough pieces to at least form like part of a team, but you know what? We've been trying to just add on, and there are still too many holes. The holes we plugged, we're using faulty mortar. I feel like if you can just bulldoze this and just build through the draft like normal teams do, and you develop like normal teams do, then maybe, just maybe, you'll finally catch up to everyone else in the NFL.
Well, the thing is in the NFL, if you figure out the quarterback situation, everything else falls into place.
Yes, but how are we going to figure that out?
I mean, that's the thing. You need to draft one. But what happens is, like when you have a great quarterback, it makes all of your wide receivers and tight ends better, makes your offensive line better, makes your running game better, and it makes your defense better because they don't have to be on all the time. You can bail them out. It makes your draft picks look better, makes your GM and your head coach look better. Who knows if Matt LaFleur or the guy from Arizona are that good. Who knows? They've just both got really good quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Look at Mike McCarthy, man. Look how many years he was carried by Aaron Rodgers.
He is brutal this year.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here to coach my football team. I'm Mike McCarthy. I'm the greatest there ever was. I'm so smart and so great.
Oh, my God. He might get fired after 1 year.
Yeah. And, I've always said Mike McCarthy's kind of overrated, but when he went to Dallas, I'm like, I can see the fit. A very high offensive-minded team. I could see the fit, but, oh, boy, it's been bad.
Yeah, it has been bad. I don't know. I don't know where you go if you fire Matt Nagy. Like do you hire, people are like, oh, Eric Bieniemy. Do you really want to go with another Andy Reid coaching tree after you just got rid of Matt Nagy?
I almost want to throw the whole coaching tree thing down the window. Because just find someone that is competent. I mean, I think people followed the coaching tree thing a little too much. Look at how much the Lions have tried to be the baby Patriots, and look what's happened. Look at us trying to follow the Andy Reid coaching tree, and look what's happened.
Oh, I don't mean it like that, but I mean it's a guy that directly works for Andy Reid. Like, is that gonna be weird? Is he gonna want to come here after you just fired another guy that like the guy who had your job before you? They just fired him. Like,
yeah,
and is it going to be, are you going to leave is that going to leave a sour taste in your mouth? Like, we just hired an offensive coordinator from the Chiefs and he sucked. Are we going to hire another one?
Yeah, I don't know. It's because I was listening to a bit of 670 The Score today. I had the day off, so I was driving around doing some errands, and I was listening to both 670 The Score and ESPN 1000, and people brought up like, oh, is Pat Fitzgerald finally going to get his breakthrough, and is he going to do it with the Bears? And I know there's a lot of people that like Pat Fitzgerald, but I feel like that would be such an experiment if Matt Nagy was fired this year and we looked ahead to next year. I don't know. I feel like I'd be just blotted to death with his high school like cliches. I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't make him a bad coach or anything. I just don't know if that's the route I'd want to go.
What has he done so great?
Rah-rah speeches.
Like really, I mean, what has he done to be a highly sought after coach?
I can't really tell you. I can't. And so many meatball narratives. He's a Chicago guy. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like that would drive me nuts. That's just me.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's I'm not even in love with any of the top candidates that are out there.
Well, and here's another thing to think about too, is think about all the vacancies that are going to be for head coaching positions.
There's going to be quite a few.
The Lions, Jaguars, Falcons, just to name a few. There's probably more that I could name. Probably going to be the Jets.
The Jets gotta.
Yeah. Maybe we mentioned Mike McCarthy maybe getting fired. Maybe the Cowboys.
Yeah, maybe the Cowboys.
The Chargers.
I don't think so. I feel like they've been too competitive in too many games, and you're seeing enough good things that you got to keep that train riding.
See, I'm in the mind of I think a better head coach can take them to that next step.
Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't fire him, but let's see. Bills not firing their head coach. Dolphins not firing their head coach. Patriots not firing their head coach. Jets, Adam Gase has got to be gone. Like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Andy Reid will still be there. Chucky will still be there. So many bad things have happened this year. I can't see them firing Fangio. Maybe, but there's just been so many fluke things, and you haven't given him a quarterback. I think that's brutal to fire him. Man, he hasn't done a great job, but I don't know. It's been.
He hasn't had the right team around. I mean, I'm not going to say Fangio is the great coach, but I think you got to give him one more shot and actually improve the roster a little bit.
Yeah, I think Elway should fire himself before he fires Fangio because they.
His ego is too high to do that.
You can't. I mean, you can't give a guy no quarterback and literally no quarterback and then expect him to win.
Elway's going to have that job as long as he wants, basically. That's how I see it.
I don't think they fire the guy from the Chargers. Steelers. Remember when what's his nuts from the Fox pregame called for his job.
Who, Mike Tomlin?
Yeah. Terry Bradshaw was calling for Mike Tomlin to get fired a couple years ago.
Could you argue that Mike Tomlin, outside of Bill Belichick, is the best head coach in the past 20-some years?
I'm going to say Andy Reid, but Mike Tomlin is a really good coach. He's a really good coach.
Longest tenured one, that's for sure.
The Browns safe, Ravens safe.
I don't know. If the Ravens kind of keep falling apart here, if they ever get healthy again, you think John Harbaugh might be on the hot seat?
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
I don't even know who the head coach of the Bengals is.
I don't either.
I'll just say safe. Titans safe.
Who was the guy that was there forever? The Bengals.
Yeah, Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis, yeah, the guy that would just go 10-6 and lose in the first round every year.
Titans safe, Colts safe, Texans are hiring somebody, Jaguars are hiring somebody, Giants safe, Redskins safe, Eagles I think safe, Cowboys maybe, Seahawks safe, Rams safe, Cardinals safe, 49ers safe, Packers safe, Vikings safe, Bears not safe, Lions already fired their guy, Saints safe, Buccaneers safe, Falcons already fired their guy, and Panthers safe. So not terribly many. Got 1, 2, maybe 3, 2, maybe 4. Three, maybe 5.
I think depending
it's like
on
7,
how the
like
season
7.
ends,
Yeah, it's actually probably like average number. That's is more than I anticipated.
I think you're going to see some firings. I think there are certain teams that are on kind of the borderline. If they keep going down, then you're going to see more firings.
Yeah, I want to fire Matt Nagy into the moon. I should be the official catapult guy of Chicago. Whenever we're just tired of a coach, we just launch him.
Thwong.
Speaking of coaches, I haven't heard a certain mustached coach in a while. Did somebody finally shut him up?
Ditka?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him either. I think I think he was put away in his retirement home room and the door was locked. He was quarantined.
Like, here, Mike, here's a fresh pack of diapers. Go sit in your cubby.
We'll bring your meals to you. We'll push them under the door.
We'll bring you your butterscotch pudding snack.
Just slide it under the door.
Here's the hard candy you wanted.
They give him, here are your cigars. They're actually just long pretzel rods.
They're the candy cigarettes that you puff and they make the candy smoke come out. They're the bubblegum ones where it's got the paper wrapper on it. He's clipping the end of the bubblegum.
I saw those recently at a candy store.
For real?
Yeah.
I was a pig in shit. My wife came home from the grocery store yesterday and she's like, I bought Big League Chew.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 43 and I'm like, oh yeah, Big League Chew. Yeah, that's what's up.
It's good. I actually recently bought some Big League Chew from 7-Eleven. They still have them at 7-Eleven, at least one of the ones by me. And I'm like, yeah, this stuff is pretty good. It's actually got flavor.
Yeah, so she bought a pack for each of us, and we've all been like, we're paranoid. I saw my daughter eating gum. Was that my gum? Did you take my Big League Chew? we're all like guarding it like rabid dogs.
It's like, you're just normal walking around the house talking like normal. And then suddenly you see your wife take like one little string of Big League Chew. And all of a sudden you start barking like a dog and run after her. Just like a maniac with your tongue flopping out.
We all become accusatory. We're all in like a 1970s murder mystery story, pointing fingers at each other.
You're gonna be putting up those like smoke detector video cams so you can watch it all the time, making sure nobody takes your big league chew.
Spending so much more that you spend $400 on a video system. You could buy 400 packs of Big League Chew.
Yeah, seriously, you could buy like one bag of those for like $1.
Oh, Big League Chew. And it's like I can't even be reasonable with it, like, and put a little bit. Like, I have to put it in my mouth like I'm a 1980s baseball player with chaw. Like, I'm like John Lackey in there. Like, I got a big mouth at chaw.
Instead of getting that nice ting, you go
just blowing bubbles. These giant bubbles the size of my head. I'm on a work call just blowing bubbles.
And then when you finally want to spit it out, you just put it in the Marty Havlat crock pot.
I literally turned into a Marty Havlat crock pot during the game yesterday. It was like, oh, Mitch just threw another interception in the end zone.
Oh boy.
I was like, if I had something more to eat, I probably would have turned into a Bills fan yesterday, but I didn't. I was like, man,
Ew.
luckily I have an empty stomach.
Ew.
Like, Mitch Trubisky throws a deep one. Oh, intercepted in the end zone.
Water falling all over your floor. Ew. And then, we always have to be sure on this show, we have to distinct between the Marty Havlat crockpot noise and the Bills fan puke noise. Because they're very similar.
They're very similar, but they're completely different.
Right. I mean, one is just you're stirring around in a crock pot that is shaped like Marty Havlat's head that can talk, and the other is regurgitating like a fountain. And that's really disgusting. I'm sorry. I have a really funny story to tell you. One of my friends who likes to listen to our show, we were talking about the Bills fan puke like a few weeks ago, and he was eating dinner, and he texted me like, "Thanks for talking about that while I was trying to eat dinner."
Somebody messaged me. It was like, anytime we talk about the Marty Havlat crock pot, we should say patent pending at the end of it.
Yeah, patent pending. We should just make this a thing and like
really
like,
patent it.
Marty Havlat's like, what is this? Sitting wherever he is post-retirement.
There's one more thing I want to talk about. It's really not Chicago sports related, but did you happen to watch the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. fight?
I did not.
So I ponied up for it because I was like, there's no way I'm paying for this. And then literally I got an update that the undercard had started, and I was like, I got to see this. So I paid for it. And all the undercard fights were very good. I was like, okay, all right, I'm digging this. This is a good undercard. Like, that's a good sign. And then it got to the YouTube guy versus Nate Robinson. Former Chicago Bull Nate Robinson. And I don't know if you've seen the memes or if you've seen the clip, but Nate Robinson, my wife was sitting there with me, and she screamed, "Oh my God, is he dead?" And the internet did its thing. Have you seen the memes?
I gotta look because I have not.
There is one where Nate Robinson is just like, he's just laying like he's doing a planking challenge.
Oh, okay, I've seen him now. Yeah, because NBC Sports Chicago did Bears Packers memes. Yeah, okay.
Like, he's just laying face first, and somebody photoshopped him on a bed like it was a mattress ad. Another one, they had baby Simba shaking him, trying to wake him up.
Of course. Of course.
There's another one where it's a video clip, and the punch that knocked him out, you saw all the Sonic the Hedgehog rings fly out of Nate Robinson.
Oh my God! Here's one with the. Have you ever seen the coffin dance meme?
Yes.
There's one where it's him, like they replaced the coffin with just him, and the guys are dancing with him.
There's another one. I think it was from Boys in the Hood. It's like, do y'all want to see a dead body? And it's just Nate Robinson.
Oh my God. Yeah, because I saw NBC Chicago posting this meme. I'm like, oh, what's that from? So, because I didn't really look into it, now it makes sense.
Yeah, Nate Robinson just got absolutely wrecked.
Oh, there's the Simba one. Yeah, these are, wow. Hey, I remember him on the Bulls. I remember when he went off in that Brooklyn series, in that playoff series in 2013.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. Oh,
Wow.
poor Nate Robinson.
Boy.
Yeah. But the Mike Tyson looked really good. Like, came out of there like I was like, oh my God, this looks, I mean, he looked old. Like, I mean, you could clearly tell he was an old man, but he came out at just the way he fought. You're like, oh my God. Like, Roy Jones was scared. And after the fight, they were asking Roy Jones if he would ever fight again. And he was just like, I'd have to talk to my family, but I hurt everywhere he punched me. And they asked Mike Tyson before the fight, they're like, there's no knockouts in here. They're like, what are your goals for the fight? You know, and he's like, I just want to, you know, I just don't want to get hit hard, and I want to throw punches with bad intentions. I was like, I mean, the punches he was throwing, and they asked,
I'll have to watch those highlights.
and they asked him like afterwards, like, did he get you? And he goes, yeah, he got me with one that kind of hurt. And Roy Jones is like, I hurt everywhere. I mean, he was getting his clock cleaned. There was at least 4 times where I jumped off the couch and was like, oh. Like, Roy Jones is a tough man for not dying in that ring, because I probably would have died any number of those punches. Because Mike Tyson was coming in there trying to murder somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch those highlights.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it was worth the fight. It was worth the money.
Oh, there you go. I mean, those fights are big moments in history, so.
Was there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, there's literally nothing else going on in Chicago sports. I guess by this week now, we'll know who's tendered and non-tendered.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for checking us out. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn apps, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. And thank you guys again for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van, and she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down